welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join me on today's video where we'll be looking at the Pagani Design 1701. As you guys know what this watch is, it's a homage to the Omega, and there have been a couple of reviews of this watch already. Now what I find absolutely amusing about some of the reviews that have already come out, which kind of sums up what this watch really is some of the titles or some of the thumbnail captions. Jason calls it the watch on crack. I think we've got Watch the Time that says it's lost in space. I kind of agree. Just FYI, full disclosure, this watch was sent in to me for free by the Trendy Men Watch store, so I'll link them within the description. Check out the store, they've got a lot of models, predominantly Pagani Design and the likes. And what I will say, yes, it does sum up the watch, but you know, let's take the price into consideration. The watch is around £84, which is about $112. But in the sales, the 11/11 has gone now, but you do have the Black Friday sale, and I suspect for the most part it'll hang around the £60 mark, which is the price in the sale, around $84. We really have got to realign, you know, our expectations. I think China is its own worst enemy, especially when it comes to, you know, consumable goods. It's because they just devalue everything. They bring the price down so low, raise our expectations, and then they find it difficult to keep up. Now, bearing the price in mind, I'll break down this watch and tell you what I think about this. Now, the first thing is, I think the renderings were quite off, to the point where I wanted to get the black and gold version. It kind of looked slightly greyish, and I think a grey and gilt combination would have been awesome. But the seller, Trendy Men Watch Store, they said, "Are you sure? Just have a look at the real picture." So they sent me a picture of the live item, and yeah, it was not as impressive as I thought. So I went with the white and blue version. And I think with the black version, the silver hands won't stand out too much on the subdials. Second thing is, you know, your usual Pagani Design QC issues. I have had this watch for about 2 weeks. I just haven't had time to review it, but I've had it in hand. So, you know, my findings are similar to what the other reviewers are saying about it. So let's break this down. Let's give you stat specs, and let's give you my overview on this watch. Now, wrist check, I'm wearing the Seiko Alpinist on this Miltat bracelet. So there we go, and let's move on. In terms of measurements, you do have a case diameter of 42 millimeters, including the crown. It comes to 44 millimeters. You have a overall case thickness of 14 millimeters. You do have a lug to lug of 47 millimeters, a lug width of 20 mil. Specs, as you guys know, sapphire crystal, stainless steel case, bracelet, crowns, etc. You also have the Seiko VK63 mechanical quartz movement in this, as it is a chronograph, a fully functioning chrono. And as you can see there, press it again to pause it and B to reset. Does it line up? Yes, it does line up. Is it just a touch off? Just a touch off. But that is the fault of the 12 o'clock marker, I believe. And at the 6, you can also see it's not perfectly straight. Okay, but other markers are okay. Just at the 12 and 6, we do have a bit of an issue. With regards to water resistance, you do have 100 meters because you do have a screw down crown. But I don't know about the pushers, and personally I wouldn't really risk this near water. You do have a screw down case back, which will of course help. On the case back, you do have this rather relevant case back logo, which is, if we zoom in, is a rocket going out to space. Okay, as well as different specifications, a few different finishes on the case back. Overall quite nice, and you know, I do like relevant case back logos. So what do you get for £60? You know, 84 whatever dollars. You get solid link bracelet, solid end links, although they don't fit 100% correctly. You do have a slight gap on one side. You do have a touch bit of movement. The bracelet itself, again, fully solid. The links are slightly edgy. Okay, you do have a milled clasp, this fold over thing here, 3 micro adjust. You do also have a diver's extension, solid end links, as I said. Yeah, so the finishing on the bracelet is actually really nice. You do have this satinized brushing, which we're seeing all over the place. I'm getting tired of saying satinized. And then you've got this polished center links on the edges. So that's quite nice itself. But going back to the feel of the bracelet, it feels quite light. It is quite edgy. But you know, overall it will be very comfortable because of the size of these links. They do wrap around the wrist really well. Female end links. Now the end links on my one are absolutely fine. as I showed you, is a touch bit of play. It's not something that you're going to notice. But the added bonus of a milled clasp and everything solid, of course. Now moving on to the case, that is probably the nicest thing about this watch. Let's give it a quick clean for you guys so you can see. Now you do have these twisted lugs. Okay, you got an asymmetrical case with the right hand side being slightly thicker, of course, to accommodate all the pushers, and the crown and pushers do fit nicely inside this case. Now you do have some really nice finishing. If you look at the twisted lugs brushing on the inside, you've got this polished highlighted edge which follows the case profile, beautifully done. And you also have this horizontal brushing across the case, and as you notice here, if you look along the polished edge, it doesn't run over, very clean lines. Now that's really good at this price point, considering the other model, I think the BB58 homage, where you saw the brushing wasn't as nice. So really nicely brushed, really nice side profile. You got a polished edge around that bezel, and the case is incredible, really nice to hold. Move on to the dial. What you'll notice is a flat white dial. You got printed text, below the 12, just above the 6 as well. You've got a printed tachymeter across this blue ceramic bezel, and you also got printed text in the sub dials, and of course all these printed minute track. And then the hour markers are in fact applied. They look like painted batons. There's not much of a shine on there. And then you've got these blued out hands, which of course catch the light beautifully. Flat hands, and they look polished. Now sub dials hands are silver. As mentioned, with the black color option, you will have some legibility issues. However, you don't really pay attention to sub dials unless you are timing something, because the chronograph hand, you can use that as a timer if you want, but the hour minute hand are very visible. You got the date window past the 4 p.m. position. It kind of blends in. You really have to look for it. The dial quality, I've said it about Pagani Design, they do have really good dial quality. Have been impressed. You've got a cutout dial where you can see this white dial has been pressed over the bottom dials here, which are a lighter blue. You got some really nice details present here, concentric circles around the sub dials and the relevant minute markers around. Very clean, just look at that, no misprints, printed really nicely. And you've got, as you can see here next to the 12, these 2 pips, which are in fact Loom. So we'll check the Loom shot slightly after. Zooming in at this level, yes, it is just a touch off the marker, but that is just so small. And I think that's down to maybe a misprint on the dial more than anything. Okay, so before we check out the Loom, let's talk a little bit about the dial. I think the dial's okay. I think the colors are fine. I know there is a bit of a mismatch between the bezel and the sub dials. I don't mind that because I think the sub dials stand out more, whereas the bezel is a bit darker. That's entirely subjective, how you guys like to see it. Like I said, for me, it kind of works because it does stand out. With regards to Loom, it's not the best. It's actually okay. You can see what you need to see. You can see those 2 pips just below the 12 lit up, and you can see all the markers there. On the whole, these chronograph style watches, you don't really have a lot of Loom on there. The hands are quite poor, quite faded. Now you wouldn't expect a lot, especially from Pagani when it comes to Loom, and that is starting to fade away quite bad. So nothing special at all. Like I said, the Loom will work for a couple of minutes at most. Okay, so that's the pros and cons. Built well enough. Few issues on the finishing, couple of consistency issues, a slight alignment issue on the dial. Loom, yeah, it's just Pagani Loom. But it's got the basic specs that you want. Sapphire, a solid reliable movement, stainless steel, a decent enough bracelet, and the biggest thing is the price, right? I think the problem with Pagani arises when they started doing these premium models, and nothing has really changed, but they want to charge you around near enough $170-ish. That's where the problem comes in, because then they step out of that money for value bracket. I think with this one, they've gone back to the roots. $80. Yeah, for $80, how much can you really complain about? Of course, there are alternatives which might be better, but on the whole, if you just look at features wise, this probably gives you more. Now, this brings it back to what I always say. It's not strictly about specifications, because you can have all the specs, but it's not particularly well finished. And especially in this price bracket, we, again, going back to managing expectations, we do have to kind of bring them down. On the whole, I don't think it's a bad watch at all. I think it's absolutely fine. It's what I would expect. It doesn't exceed my expectations, and it doesn't really disappoint me too much. You know, it's what's expected from Pagani. Alternatives, I'd say, if you want a chronograph quartz movement, go for the Pagani Design Daytona homage. Much better watch. They really nailed it with that one. That's made a lot better. You know, something we like this though, it looked the part as well, and for the most part you should be happy with it. Now, that's not me just saying it. If you look at the reviews that you guys that have bought it have put down, you've got 380 plus orders and a rating of 4.7, which is a very high rating considering you rate it out of 5. Now, I'm not saying all those 300 people left reviews, but there is quite a lot of reviews on there. I think people are pointing out the same things. Like I said, I think the reviews I have seen of this watch have pointed out similar things that I've found, which goes to show that, you know, Pagani, while inconsistent in the QC, are consistent throughout all the models that look out for, you know, these small bits which aren't going to be right. But again, let's bring it back to price. $80, really can't complain as much. So, you know, like I said, if you're going to buy the watch, you're going to buy it regardless, knowing full well that Pagani have issues. Pagani have been selling thousands of models all the time. So yeah, that's my 2 pence on this watch. Let's slap it on wrist. Let's see how it looks. And imagine I've got to take this off to put this on. No way. I haven't bothered sizing it, guys. 6.5 inch wrist. You know, dimensions wise, I think it's nice. And again, you know, at arm's length, it looks absolutely fine. There's no issues. Only when you start touching, feeling, getting a bit closer, that's when you start noticing a few little issues. But on the whole, it's a very reasonable watch to buy. Honestly, I can't really say much more than that. One point to add, the trendy men's watch store has added a version 2. I have no idea what the version 2 consists of. So yeah, there's no information on there as well. So I don't know if they've improved anything. Can't really comment on that. If I find out before this video is released, I might put it in the description. If not, then you'll have to find out from the seller, I suppose. So there we go. That's my review of my 2 pence on this Pagani Design 1701. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.